Alright, my name is Timothy and this is XPR Garage. Today I am working on my daily driver. It has been giving me a fit and I'm to a point I'm just going to have to go through it and figure out what in the world is wrong. This thing, well, it's a 1969 Charger. It's an F6 green, black interior, black vinyl top. No, I don't have the fender tag. 318 car, but it's got the big radiator. All that in it, not an AC. Was an automatic, converted to a 4-speed with the console. Well, I've been having problems. It's always had just a little bit of problem, but it's not been major. The engine's strong. It's a 1970 340. The heads are 360 heads. The early 360s, I think. I think it came out of a 73 360. There's same size valves as what the X heads on a 340 would be. I think it's got an air gap intake. I think that's what it's called. It's been a while since I've been through this motor. I know it's bored 60 over. It is a high compression motor. Don't know what the pistons, they were a little bit above deck, I think. It's got a Holley 650, no, it's a Holley 600 double pumper. And yes, a true double pumper, I'll show you here in a second. Well, the main problem is it will start up great, and you have the first little bit of throttle. So if you didn't know, the carburetor's got different circuits. Your idle circuit, and then there's a I can't remember what the other circuit is, but it's basically between there and the main jet. It uses little slots. It's like a real partial throttle, which this car does run on quite a bit. I have this car very, very tight on timing, and it is pretty well tuned. Motor has changed since the timing that I've recurved the distributor for. Well, I'm having problems with that. It's got well, back to the carburetor. So you have the idle, you got your, something slot. Then you have your main jet, and then you have the power valve. Well, it seems like the main jet is clogged up on the primaries. That's what it seems like. But I guarantee you it's probably not. That and points and condenser. This thing burns through them like crazy. So I'm going to double check my wiring that I've done and make sure that the resistor and everything's working properly. And matter of fact, today a condenser did go out. It was driving like it was very bad today. And it got to the point where I could barely had any throttle. So I pulled over, changed just the condenser, didn't mess with the points or nothing. Popped in, it's back to the way it was, where I still don't have that mid throttle. That's what I'm going to say. They don't have mid throttle. You can, between this primaries finally opening up a little bit, where it's starting to use the main jet, that point, all the way until you have the thing pretty much wide open, or the secondaries are really kicking in, is when it starts getting better. And when you have it wide open, it will run, especially when the power valve's open. I don't know, I've been through it several times. It's always had like a little hiccup, but it was nothing bad. It was just high RPM it didn't like. And I mean, it was kind of coming around 35 after some mileage on it. And then I usually regat points and clean them up, and it'd fix that. And it probably would have a little bit of problem occasionally, 4,500, and sometimes you can get a real good 6,000 sweep and it wouldn't care. This motor is a strong running motor. Currently, in its state right now, it is still bored 60 over. The cam is a random 318 truck cam, and the cam came out of I'm going to assume a low mileage. It was a warranty block out of a 70-something truck. The cam looked good and is what I had, so I threw it in it. Because the cam that was in it, which was a performance cam, Kind of a mix between a truck cam, RV cam, but it's more of a torque cam, but it would run still. I mean, for a 4-speed 340 in a big car, big B body, and 323 gears, this thing will pretty much keep you in the back of the seat. And it still will. It's very, very hyper motor. Even with that little 318 cam, it will still run. It just don't have a whole lot of top end no more. But a little bit more of a clue of the timing. I've recurbed the distributor. I will show you whenever I look into it, and I'll show you guys what I've done. But I've shortened the gaps to the piece where the slots for the weights. I've shortened them and adjusted them. And instead of putting 2 light springs, which just sounds weird, because most people, what they do is they'll lock them, or they'll put the smallest lightweight springs in it, they'll pop the big one out. I did it backwards, but for a reason, because it works with this motor and it works really good. So, me explaining what I did to this one is I shortened up the slots, so that way my timing curve is set. The springs have been replaced with 2 heavy springs, and I have took out a lot of the vacuum advance pull, so it doesn't pull as much timing. So for example, I don't know the exact numbers off the top of my head, this distributor has a timing mechanical curve of about 30 to 40 degrees of timing with the slots, and it may be closer to 20, but it's in there. The vacuum vents will add another 8, and it doesn't start kicking in until about 13 and a half vacuum, and it's fully in by 16, which isn't a lot, but it still adds 18, and it works very well. I know it sounds strange. This motor is mechanically timed of 19 degrees before top dead center. That's the way I have this motor timed. And the vacuum vents is about 28, 29. And that's when it's running and idling, it's at 29 degrees of timing. And it will start right off the bat. Here, I'll show you here in a second. It will start in cold. You pump the gas once, maybe about halfway if it's real super cold. Turn the key and it fires right up. And it'll auto. I got it to where it won't knock with this. I designed, when I did this, the tuning to it, I made it for this heavy car with a 323 gear. Matter of fact, a little bit of a gas mileage reference that I get when this thing was running pretty decent, and I haven't even touched anything in the carburetor, the jets. The only thing I messed with was a power valve and the cams on the secondaries and primaries, and a little bit of the accelerator pump sizing. That's pretty much it of the stuff I've had. I haven't really gone into it. And with the cam that I had in it at the time, which was about a 460 lift cam. It was a 2-duration cam for intake and exhaust. It was about 470, 477, 474, I think, was the lift. And I had 410s in it, and going down, well, it was a little bit of a hill, but I'd get on average about 16 miles a gallon with a 340, with the Holley 600, and I had 410s at the time with a 29-inch tall tire. That's the tire, by the way, when I measure it. And I was getting about 16 miles to the gallon when you didn't open it and you were highways cruising, and I was pouring a little bit of here, a going 60 miles an hour, 60, 65. And this thing did not care one bit, and it got decent gas mileage. Then gas started going up. I went to a 323, just for a little bit better. Really, a 323 is a little bit too much. Great if it's flat, but the hills that I pull, it's a little bit much, but it can do it. Well, shortly after that, the lifters, I had 3 lifters on the right bank, so 2, 4, 6, 8. Let's see here, it was cylinder 2. It was cylinder 2 exhaust, cylinder 4 and 8, no, cylinder, yeah, 4 and 8 exhaust. I believe it was all the exhaust. It was all in the same bank. It domed the back lifter pretty good on number 8. 2 was domed, and it was either 4 or 6. I can't remember that one. But I think it might have been 6. That lifter I changed because it was cracked. I thought I could get away with breaking in another cam. That didn't work. Or another lifter, my bad. The cam was too far gone. I tried, didn't work. Pulled it out, drained the oil. Yes, there's metal in the oil. Yes, there's probably still a little bit of metal in it. The motor's not really hurt. I'm sure the bearings have a little bit of scarring in them. But it's been running fine, and I put pretty good amount of miles on it now. It is about time for another oil filter and oil change. About for the 5th, no. Let's see here, about the 8th filter and the 3rd oil change. So this will be the 4th. So that's about time for that. Which I don't have with me or nothing. So it won't be done today. But my main concern is getting this thing to run. Because it is right there at the perfect position where I can run 60 miles an hour. But if I push the throttle just a hair bit more, the cylinders start cutting out. It starts missing and popping. It still has a little bit of power, but you could let off and you hear all 8 cylinders and it'll run as smooth as day. The motor still is somewhat smooth. It's not too much timing. Honestly, a check for that. I thought the same thing. Well, maybe it's pulling too much timing. I pulled the vacuum and bands off, put a screw in the hole so that we wouldn't have a vacuum leak, and that would automatically, I know, would take 8 degrees of timing out. That made it worse. So now I'm thinking maybe it has too less of timing and I need to mess with that. But also, this thing did run good before I even had all the timing issues with this cam that's in the motor currently. It's just one day it started messing up. I've went through 3 condensers in 2 months with this car. And it just feels like it eats them up. The points are constantly... The only thing is maybe I wired up the ballast resistor wrong, but I don't think so. I've checked this before. I'll check it again. And there's a possibility, but I doubt it. It does have a super stock. I think that's what it's called, super stock cool. More of a hotter cool. I don't think that's the problem, because this car's ran points for a while, and this is the most problems I've had. Unless it's just too much for these new resistors. Or not, my bad. Not resistor. The condenser. And it's just burning them up, and then it starts eating the points up. I don't know. But I can go in here. Well, I got the key. Oh. My bad for the camera shake. Make sure it's a neutral. Not even gonna hit the gas or nothing. I did just start it up and bring it over here. It's not really warm, and I drove it this morning. It sat for a couple hours. So yes, it has a little bit, but it's probably sat for 20 minutes since I just brought it over here. Turn the ignition on. Starts right up. She is a little cold, but it is pretty well still warm. It does have an exhaust leak, so if you do hear that little slight pop, it is that header gasket down there. It is not on the head that I know of, it is below. And this thing's got torque, so it's got a good set timing. But I mean it. I don't rev it up too much more. It needs to warm up. But I'm gonna do a little bit of electronic testing and seeing if that's any issue. And I'll let you guys know. I'll show you some more. Alright, so the first thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna check the dwell. I'm gonna try to do this one-handed, but I might just phone down. With this dwell meter, multimeter, it does run dwell. I want to see if that changed without me adjusting the point. And I noticed I drove it, did a little trip, about 100 miles, I think, back and forth trip. I did cleaned the spark plugs, checked everything, re-gapped, cleaned them, cleaned the points. I even changed the condenser, so it had a brand new condenser before the trip, and after the trip didn't quite get me all the way home, and I had to have a new one already. I want to check the dwell and see if that's changed, and then I'm going to look at the points. I just want to see if there is a difference. The dwell was right at 30, 29.30, it was right there. I'm going to check that, see what difference that is, and then I want to check the ballast resistor, and then I'm going to check my wiring, make sure that the ballast resistor is working, which I'm sure it is, but I just want to make sure it's in my mind that it is working. There, turn this thing on, all the way over here. Okay. Maybe 0.5 lower. Honestly, that's in spec for my book, and this thing, from my experience, likes it right at 30. That's probably why you can hear just a little tiny miss every once in a while on the passenger side. Alright, so now I want to check the ballast resistor. There. I want to check the battery first. Make sure. What it's running at. Alright. So 14 to 12. Alright, so 14 to 12 on the resistor. So 2 volts difference. I think that's good. Well, I'm going to take the points off. Not take the points off, but I want to look at the distributor. Oh, before I'm going to check the timing, make sure I know exactly where it's at in case I have to mess with something. That way I know where it's at. Just to go ahead, this is how it turns off. And I take it, turn right back up, and idle's right there. Alright, so I'm going to start pulling the distributor, and I'm going to go ahead and just pull it out because it's easier to work on it instead of my head being crammed there and then trying to work there. So, I'm going to go ahead and do that. Alright, so I got the distributor out, it's laying on a paper towel. Let's see here. I'm going to take it apart. Maybe you guys can see the points. Probably not. Do open. Actually, before I'm going to do that, I'm going to get a feeler gauge and just check the gap where it's at. Alright, so I'm going to see if I can do this one-handed. Point should be open. Didn't open a whole lot. I tell you right now, that's not 18 thousandths. What's going on here? Oh yeah, I remember. 18 thousandths wouldn't work. For some reason, some set of points I've known, some newer set, don't work with a feeler gauge. Well, I don't even know how that even runs. What is that? But as well as you can see, that was 30. Kind of curious where this is now. Kind of hard to do one-handed. But if I had the stand up for the phone, I couldn't get you in this close. Alright, so the smallest one I have on this is 10. And I got a feeling it's not even going to be that. Right there looks pretty darn close. And that is like barely 10. Ooh, there's a good gap right there. Yep, that's 10. And I have to do a little bit of... That's about 10. 9, 10. Okay. So that's a little bit weird. I don't know why that is. Huh. Okay. Well, besides that, I'm going to finish taking this apart. And I guess I'm just double checking it. I definitely want to take the points out. Just check, normal check some stuff. Check the vacuum, make sure it's operating properly. Make sure the weights are not hitting anything and are free. I don't know. I'm just double checking everything just to kind of point this out. So I got the points out. And it's fairly set new points. I did not replace these. I did clean them up. Oh, actually, this was a set that I had and took off because it... No, actually, I don't remember why. I just like my old set of points that are... I pulled them out of something and they finally just had it. So this could be a reason why. The old set of points I have don't have... Ooh. Okay, well, I'll show you guys here in a second. The other set of points I have don't have a hole in it. And they worked pretty fine until they finally just hid it away. I believe this is a Blue Streak brand. I don't think this thing's going to focus. Looks like there is a little bit of metal transfer, which would make sense. Because the condenser did pretty much die on me, and I did change it this morning. Alright, here we go. Maybe it worked now. Phone wasn't focusing very well. Here's the vacuum vents. I'm going to see if I have a little vacuum pump so that way I can see how this works. Alright, I'm tearing it apart piece by piece and double checking stuff. I know the points could be a problem. I'm going to file them down and clean them up real good. I don't like the fact that they were gapped, but it did have a good dwell. And dwell, in my opinion, is more important than the gap. I don't know. Everything seems to be pretty tight. That's got a little wiggle. I might be able to shim that up and tighten it up or something. I don't know. I thought about debating, because this was set up for my other cam, and it didn't want as much timing. This one kind of wants a little bit more timing because it's smaller. And technically, it's a little bit smaller than for this engine, because for a 318, a stock truck 318, a 70 stock 318. So, I don't know, I may change this out. Distributor shaft. Oh no, that's real fluid, no, not loose or nothing. So I have a little bit of wobble in this, which is a 2-piece, so that's probably gonna happen. I might be able to just try to shim it and make it better. Alright, so I got it down to here. Go ahead and show you the vacuum vents. This is a newer one, I believe, because the old one looked bad. If you guys can't see very well, it's basically some metal wire wrapped around that to block it, because it butts up against the metal plate here, right here where my thumb is, butts up to that. So to block the amount, basically just space it there, and I held little pieces of metal wire. It's got 2 zip ties and a piece of copper wire tied up, and that's how I limited that. The adjustment for how much vacuum it takes to power it, there's a little Allen screw in here just when it starts to pull. Basically the tension on a spring, and this adjusts how far it goes. This is the top piece I was talking about that is a little loose. It's looks more looser because I'm moving the whole distributor. But as you can see, I welded up these, filed them down. I believe the way I did it is I made it larger on this end, and I welded up this end. So this little gap here is how far. These springs are tight already, so it is pulled in. They don't just sling out easily. But you don't need them to sling out easily. With small springs, you'd want them to sling out faster. Since I was pulling a heavy car with some, well, at the time, 410s, but it was pulling really hard, it would make the engine knock. And by the way, I am running 87 octane, so I'm running the cheaper stuff. And yes, I'm running the ethanol. I haven't had a problem with it yet. I don't believe this is the problem. The car has sat for a while because of the cam issue. But I did take the carburetor apart and clean it when I did, and go through the ignition. But as you can see, the weights will sling out after RPM. I believe it started in, I think these springs started moving at 2,500 RPM, like 2,700 RPM, these springs started coming out. And I got all this stuff wrote down. This has been, oh geez, 4 years ago since I've done all this, and the cars ran great. I'm just now starting to have problems and trying to diagnose that. So I'm going to take this piece off, see if I can tighten it up just a little bit. I don't know, I don't think I'm going to be able to much. I'll try as much as I can. I'll just probably put a washer under it. Probably measure the lobes, see how they are. Taking a piece of calipers and just measure across them like this, opposite ones, and see if it's about the same. And everything else does look like it's free. Alright, I'm going to take care of that and let my phone charge for a little bit. I'll get back to you whenever I get started putting this together. Everything comes freely. I'm going to double check the vacuum and put it back in and retime it back to where it was. Maybe give it a little bit of hair more, because I'm pretty sure I set it at 18, 19. It was at 15. I may just go ahead and just set it at 17, meet in the middle. I don't know, 15 didn't seem to be pretty good, but I did mess with the condenser, so I don't know. Might go back up to 18. Do it with 18 on the filler gauge, and then check, see what the dwell is, and go directly with the dwell. If it's close enough to the dwell, I'll just leave it. Wire connections look good. Don't have really any problems with that. Put it back in, put a little bit of grease on this. Yes, I know it's wheel bearing grease. I don't have any of the proper point grease. I believe this will work. I've used it. Haven't really noticed the problem yet. I do put a little bit of oil in here. Tried to get some one time and I just got some spark plug grease. So that was a $3 or $2 packet. Use that in something. So I'm gonna get this thing back together and see if it changes anything. And then I'm going to double check the coil, because I got to thinking, because the way these cars are set up, your coil starts on 12 and it should get knocked down. I was looking for the book for the seeing if there was any gauge to go this off of, and I didn't see it in my book. But I did notice that the resistor, one of the problems that the alternator could be overcharging, which it did have 15 volts. Possibility because it usually sits around 14 more. But it could have been at 15 because I just started it a couple times. It hasn't quite charged up yet. That could have been it. I don't know. Alright, so I got the distributor back in all together. And it's roughly timed. Just by dropping it in. Start up and see what it's going to do. Try it without hitting the gas. Oh, that's another problem I gotta fix. Needed a little bit, but it's probably just timing out just right. Again, didn't hit the gas, so not too bad. We'll walk around the other side of the vehicle, and this side's got a little mess to it, more than usual. So I'm going to go ahead and check my dwell to see where it's at with the 18 on the filler gauge. See how much this changed. Yeah, I thought something was a little bit off. So again, complete differences. Do I go with powder plant, or do I gotta meet in the middle? I do. Screw it. I'll drive it real quick and see what it does. If not, I'll bring it back up to 30 and see if that does any difference. And I mean by 30 is the dwell. Still got maybe a real light miss on this side. It's always has one. It's very, very, very light. It just does a good job. Timing setback is, well, at the beginning was 12 turning. So try it again and see what it does. I just checked the voltage while it was idling. The battery showed right under 15. The voltage from while it's idling on that positive post on the coil was right under 12, so like 1170, 1140. So the resistor is hooked up and it is working properly. It may not be enough, that could be a thing. I don't know. Unless the charging system's just too high for this thing, but If it is, it ain't very much, but I wouldn't think it would cause that much problems. I need to figure out how much the actual charging is supposed to be. I did have an alternator go out, so I have to rigged up that one. Alright, well, I'm going to probably move this thing in a good spot and tear the carburetor apart and just see what's in it. I don't know. Kind of sounds like electrical cutting out, but it also sounds like it's kind of lean. And if it is electrical cutting out, what would it be? Because I don't see how it would be cutting out and then you'd get full throttle. You would think that'd be more of a load. But I got light throttle good, and I got secondaries opening, and there it gets better. And full throttle, it gets better. I won't say it's at its full potential at full throttle, but it ain't half bad. So, that's the part I don't really know. Alright, a little bit update on the old daily driver charger. Hang on a second, I gotta put this down just for 1 second. See if I can get this thing set up for you. Yes, I use my charger as a workbench. Alright, so I just pulled this off. This is the primary jets. Hang on here. Maybe this will look. If you can see a little shiny piece in the left jet. Alright, so this is after the fact, and I am editing the video. The piece of trash that was in the carburetor was the problem for that. Right now, the car is running good. I still have a little bit of problem on high RPM. It starts kind of breaking up and cutting out. I don't know if it's a fuel problem or back to the points. I gotta figure that out. It's had this problem for a very long time. Before, when I had the old cam and everything, it's always had this problem. So I gotta look into that. Thank you for watching, and see you guys next time.